Did you guys hear that subtle shift in the low end, the crunchiness on the high end? In the last video, we took a look at the BetterMaker Stereo Passive EQ, a Pultec EQ with digital remote control. But what if I told you that you can enhance the emotional impact of a mix by switching out for valves? In this video, we're going to take a look at the VSPE up against the SPE and decide whether tubes make all the difference in a mix. This is Alex from Alex Pro Mix. Let's go! Hey guys, what's up? This is Alex from Alex Pro Mix. If you are new to my channel, I invite you to subscribe, like, and share if this content resonates with you. Full disclosure, I've been using the BetterMaker Stereo Passive EQ for a while now, and it sounds phenomenal. I've used it across multiple genres for mixing and for mastering. I love how the snapshot feature works, but I'm gonna leave that for another video. BetterMaker has sent me the valve version of the VSPE, which is called the VSPE. And in this video, we're gonna shoot both of these units out against each other with 3 different genres. I'm curious to hear which one you guys prefer, so let's dive in. All right, so the way I have this loaded up in Pro Tools is as follows. All my stems are going to the same auxiliary return, VSPE and SPE. But on VSPE, we're monitoring through the VSPE. This is the valve version, and I have the plugin here for plugin control. This is remote control. And the green insert is a hardware insert. Cool. And then to the right, I have SPE, which is the standard version. I have the plugin loaded for control. Then I have the hardware insert here. We're monitoring through a limiter so that it catches any peaks, especially as I'm driving the signal by a lot if I need to. But really, there's no other processing. And then here are all the stems. All right, perfect. So the first thing that I want to do is I just want to run signal through both units and see if there's much of a difference or if there's any distinguishable difference in the flat EQ curve. All right, here we go. Let's go. Okay, so it's virtually the same. It's a flat EQ curve. It's just running audio through both units. So the first thing that I'm going to engage is going to be the heat function on the valve. And when I click on that, it engages heat on the valve unit. So without any EQ as far as boosting or cutting, let's just hear what that does. Here we go. Darling, I've been freaking out. Now I'm monitoring on my main monitors, and right away I feel that the low end is a little bit rounder, a little bit heavier, without boosting any EQ. If you guys don't hear this, let me crank it up and also monitor through some high quality headphones or your studio monitors, okay? So I'm going to basically take the input of the signal running into both of these EQs, and we're gonna drive that up. I'm not brave enough to be held down. Darling, I've been freaking out. No, eyes wide and my hands down. All right, but let's take off the heat and see if they're a little bit more similar. Freaking out. No, arms up, I'm not brave enough to be held down. Darling, I've been freaking out. No, eyes wide and my. And this is what I call the stress test. Anytime I get a new piece of gear, whether it's saturation or tape emulation or some kind of analog EQ or VCA compressor or tube compressor, I like to run it through a stress test. I want to see how hard I can push signal into it before it starts to burst out or basically collapse, all right? Now, I got a funny story. All right, so one time I was doing a presentation for a manufacturer, I'm not going to name it, at a trade show. And I was testing out a tube compressor. And so I have the audience there. I have some awesome, like, killer audio examples. And I'm on the mic and I'm like, all right, let's see if we can break this thing. And then the owner passes by walking, "You're not going to break anything." And I was like, whoops. I didn't mean that, like I wasn't gonna break the unit. I just wanted to know how far I could drive it before it starts to collapse, right? Cool, so that's the first example. Before I jump into the next genre, I do wanna draw your attention on some of the differences of the VSPE versus the SPE other than the valve feature, because the VSPE does have some additional functionality and features that the original SPE doesn't. And let me identify those right now. As you notice, this is linked stereo left and right. However, you can use this unlinked where you can apply a different EQ curve on the right channel versus the left channel. What does that mean? That means that the VSPE is dual mono. That means that a single unit, you can use it as 2 mono instances instead of your DAW. So I can apply the left instance on a kick, for example, and the right instance on the vocals. So in essence, you have 2 mono units built into one device, whereas the stereo passive EQ is a stereo device. You can't unlink the left and right channel. So basically having 2 pieces of hardware versus one. The other thing that you'll notice is that the VSP offers a digital filter, a high-pass filter and low-pass filter. And in fact, if I open up this graph, you'll be able to see that. How cool is that, huh? Looks like a plugin, but it's an analog hardware unit. The stereo passive EQ has an analyzer, but it doesn't give you an interface or a graphic interface here to control these parameters. So if I was going to play audio, let me go ahead and just mute it. You're going to see the analyzer, but with the VSPE, you can interact with the EQ bands, whereas with the stereo passive EQ, you can't. All right, so I'll stop that. The other thing that you're going to notice is this solo button. And this is very interesting. Let me go ahead and reset that, and engage that, and listen to what it does. So I'll go ahead and engage the audio. And as I cycle through the different frequencies, you're going to hear that solo. Now, mind you, this is not a FabFilter Pro Q4 EQ where you can isolate the resonance and bring that down using spectral or dynamic processing. This is a Pultec style EQ. So you're going to get the benefits of a Pultec EQ, but this is not a surgical EQ by any means. But by doing that, by being able to isolate those frequencies, you can really identify what areas of the music spectrum in that area you want to increase. So again, just some additional settings there. Let's go ahead and hide that and jump into our next example.
Loved you a little. Tell me who you were falling for when we were lying on the floor. Never loved you a little. Try not to think of me at all. When you're lonely and exposed, all I really know is like these tragically and let me out the way. I was too far gone to say I'm tired, it's a little too late.
Cool. So with heat engaged, and I'm doing about a 6 dB boost into both units, I'm getting a little bit more splat on the snare on the VSPE than I am on the stereo passive EQ. And so now, like, if I'm mastering this track or a track similar to it, I can decide, okay, do I want to create a little bit more splat on the snare, on the any frequencies that are around that area? Maybe they're on R&B, they could be like snaps or claps, right? So I can decide and choose, okay, I want to go for this type of effect, therefore I'm going to use this unit and I'm going to engage heat. Whereas if I'm going for something much cleaner and I want to preserve the original dynamics and the depth of the original mix, and I don't want to mess with that, I'll go for the stereo passive EQ. So each has its merits. I think here, the fact that you can turn heat off, you're basically dealing with the same thing as down here. However, if you drive a lot of signal into it, like we do with the trim, now you're going to get 2 distinct sounding units. All right, so for this last example, we have an Afrobeats track. Tim Godfrey, bring it in.
For me, me and nothing doubt what you can do. Goodness and mercy just may follow me. All the days of my life is plenty. I make nobody to somebody. Now your way, all the way. Make me go body to somebody, now your way, all the way. Everybody, come and see what the Lord has done, what the Lord has done. Poverty choke, just one polo, no one see me, no one look my side. Me, but Baba show up for me. Now waiting soft for me. Then follow keep up when it was bad and I did down. You saved me and I loyal. Now who be my guy, almighty. You know they lose God, you steady on steeds, giving me rights, fantasy. It's a very good life where you don't dash me. Yeah. Goodness and mercy just they follow me.
All right, cool. So Heat does what it does and what it did on the other two examples. And the EQ curves are identical here, but I prefer the stereo passive EQ on this Afrobeats example. Why? Because with Afrobeats, you want it to be loud, punchy, but you don't want it to be like mid-rangey harsh. You want to feel the low end. You don't want the low end to be saturated, and you want to hear the clarity of the highs. Whereas in the rock track with the main, it was perfectly fine to use Heat because it gave us an additional layer of compression using the valves. And so it's just a matter of like knowing the genre, what's appropriate, knowing the aesthetics of the mix, and being able to apply not just the EQ curve that works for that, but also the color that will help that mix work appropriate for its genre. Okay. And that's something very key to know as a mix engineer, to know when to apply saturation and when not to apply saturation, when it can enhance the song, where it's going to take it out of its genre pool. And for something like Afrobeats, although I love saturation, I probably would do without Heat and use more of these like super broad, hyped up, high boost frequencies and a little gentle boost on the low end. So that should hopefully wrap up an idea for you guys of what both of these units sound like. If you have a preference, I would love to hear that in the comments below. And if this is your first time watching, I invite you guys to like, share, and subscribe if this content resonates with you. My name is Alex from Alex Pro Mix, and I appreciate you guys, appreciate your time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Can't wait to see you guys in the comments. Peace.